Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Real Talk with Ben podcast. Hope you've had a great week. I hope that you've been able to spend this last few days of summer with family and friends. For you students out there, I hope you're getting ready to go back to school. I know personally as a teacher, I've been back in the classroom for like the past 2 weeks. So it's been kind of surreal, kind of cool to just be back getting ready for school. And there's so much more that's been going on. And it's kind of a crazy week for me coming up. I'll talk a little bit about this past week, but mainly just the week coming up. And yeah, so all that coming up. And if you're new, my name is Ben, and this is my podcast where I talk about life. I talk about ministry. I talk about my job teaching. I talk about pretty much anything that I see that I want to share with you. And I hope that God gets the glory, and I hope you're encouraged as well. And so, yeah, let's get into this. Where are we starting? What are we going to be talking about? If you didn't know, I'm getting married very shortly. We are now into the single digits, which is it's crazy to think about it a little bit. But it's actually a national holiday today on a Friday. There's a gnat that's distracting me. Where is he? I'm going to kill him. Anyways, we'll get back to it. I'm going to get him. Sorry. If I clap, it's because there is a fly or a gnat or whatever. Anyways, we're going to get back on topic. Get back on topic, Ben. So I said there's 9 days until I get married, which is crazy till Rebecca and I get married. And it's definitely surreal. It's definitely weird. And like weird in a good way, not in a bad way. A lot of stress, a lot of things going on. I always joke that I think we probably chose the weirdest time to get married, in the sense that I started a new job like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago now. And it's kind of weird that I'm like learning all this. The students come like 2 days before the wedding, but I'm not going to be there on the first day, and all this other stuff, which I'll get to in this episode. And so I like I said, I mentioned right before that stupid gnat was flying around that it's a national holiday as I'm recording this. I know this is on a Thursday, but I recorded it on a Friday where there's a national holiday. There's no work. So, anyways, so basically going back to what I was saying, like, it's kind of two crazies, right? That's kind of like what I'm calling this, is like the two crazies, right? Like, it's crazy surreal that I have a teaching job in Hungary in a place that I have fell in love with. But not more than importantly, is just like having a full-time teaching job that's longer than 6 months or 3 months. Like, this is the year that I get to really focus on teaching, ministering to students. I get to teach a photography class now, I found out, which is super, super cool. And working with students to get them to the college of their dreams, and all these different factors. That's really cool, but crazy at the same time. And then the other kind of crazy is the surreal crazy of as well, of like, wow, I'm getting married. This is a new journey of life. This is something that, you look forward to your whole life of, when we get married, who you get married to. And now I'm in the single digits. It's kind of hard to believe in some ways, but it's really cool. And so I wanted to take those two things, right? Like those two crazies, as I'm calling them, not in a bad way, just in a generic word way, and talk about them and talk about how the one impacts the other, and then the other one impacts the other one. And so I'm going to start off with just the whole job scenario, right? Like, about, what was it? About 2 years ago, I was student teaching. Didn't really know what God was doing with me. I knew I was going to become a missionary in that following spring. So I don't know if I'll ever go back in the classroom. And that was a legitimate thought. I never thought I would go back in the classroom, because God really pulled me into the world, into the world of ministry, into the calling that He had for me. And so it's crazy, the sense that now I'm back in a classroom. I have my own classroom. There's no mentor. There's mentor teachers, but no one there in the classroom with me. It's really just focusing on teaching these kids, and they're not really kids. They're young adults. I'm going to be teaching 18-year-olds and 7th and 8th graders, and something totally different. And that's what the other part of the crazy is that I'm not just teaching what I'm used to teaching. It's this whole new experience. And I think that's what makes it so stressful sometimes is when you're so used to dealing with, the 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, and now you're dealing with 16, 17, 18-year-olds. It's a new world. Some teachers might not say that, but I mean that. Like when you've focused your whole, education on one specific age group. But at the same time, I feel like I'm more than capable. I'm more than ready to take on this task that God has for me. I believe that it's going to be amazing, an amazing time, and I can't wait for the students to get here. But yeah, and so the reason why and I think the coolest thing too is like being in an international school. There's so many cultures and everything like that adds that new perspective to teaching that I never had before. And so, yeah, and then you look at the craziness of getting married, right? Like it's exciting, and like I am so like I sometimes can't even put to words like what this is going to mean to me, and having my family here and celebrating with friends and family, at least here in Hungary. It's going to be amazing. But at the same time, it's a new journey. It's never experienced it before. What are going to be the struggles? What are going to be the joys? All these things I have no idea how to handle in some cases. And it can be stressful and it can be tiring. And Rebecca and I always say that we're so done with this whole pre-wedding thing because it's like, it's more stressful of like trying to figure out different things, times when people should be there, things of what needs to be done. And I'm sure those of you that are married know that very well. And so it's like one of those things where it's stressful, but like we're going to be so excited when it's there that day. And then even when it's over. But I think on both sides, right? The both two crazies, the two things that really, for me, have caused stress over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of months. Even with those, it's very easy when we look at those and to get distraught and to get stressed out and forget that we need to rely on God. And for me, that is what has been so important really in my journey the last week or so, leading up to this wedding week, leading up to the first week of school, is that it's so easy when you go into the two crazies of your life, or maybe it's something else for you. Maybe it's a new, opportunity at the school you go to, or a new opportunity at your job. And it's so stressful. It's so overwhelming. You can't really figure out what to do. And I'm reminded that we need to take a step back and remind ourselves that God has everything under control. If Rebecca and I have learned anything over this process, it's that God works in mysterious ways and he's always going to come through. And, there are some things on our plate that are very stressful that we need prayer for because we don't know what the outcome's going to be. We don't know if the things that we were hoping that was going to be able to happen will happen, but we know that the one thing we do have is that God does not change. God has never changed and he never will. He's an everlasting God. So as I look at these two sides of my life right now that is crazy and sometimes frustrating, and I'm sometimes sitting at school as I'm preparing lessons, or I'm preparing things for guidance counseling, or I'm doing marketing things, all these different things. And I'm also saying, I'm thinking about this wedding, and will my parents get in easily without any issues? Will this or that, or over there, or over there, and all these different things that are so overwhelming that some days I sit at my desk and I put my hands in the air and say, God, I can't do this anymore. And sometimes those are the days that become the most peaceful days and the best days. Because I've taken my life and said, God, I know you've given me stuff that I can't handle, because if I couldn't, you wouldn't give it to me. But God, I can't do this on my own. I need you. And so when you handle two different crazy events or two different things in your life that you might think, how's this happening? We can't focus just on the events. We need to focus on the person who created those events. And that is God. And so I think that is where, that's kind of like where I wanted to really focus in on, is how these two events, how these two different parts of my life yet are in the same chapter of my life. I start my first full-time job that's outside of being a missionary and getting married in the same year on pretty much the same weekend. And yet it's part of the same journey. And I've been getting this question a lot from people at work, from friends and stuff like that. They always say, like, are you ready for marriage? I get that question, I think, more than any question I've ever gotten, I think, in my life. My answer is always no. Personally, I don't think anybody's ever ready for marriage or the trials that might hit, the figuring out how to do life together in a different capacity, to handling two different jobs, to, when the time comes, when there's a family, trying to feel that dynamic out. And I know there's steps to being married, and there's all these different things that I've seen from my friends and family. But if I'm honest, I can sit here and say, like, I'm not really ready, I don't think. And not in a bad way. Like, I'm so excited to be married and to have Rebecca by my side for the rest of my life. Don't get me wrong. I think it's like, that's the one part I'm like super stoked about and super like, wow, this is going to be freaking awesome. But at the same time, personally, there's so many things that I don't know if I'm ready for. I remember a friend once told me that, he's been married for a few years, and he always said, Ben, I've been married for 3 to 4 years, and yet I still am figuring out how to do this thing. And I've heard my dad say the same thing, and they've been married for over 30 years. And so when I personally truly look at this new journey that I'm going on with Rebecca, it can be overwhelming. It can be stressful. At times it could probably be irritating. Even leading up to this, I've seen how things have irritated us in different ways. And we might have said things that have hurt each other or whatever. And we ask for forgiveness, but then most importantly, we say, God, direct us, God, guide us. So I guess the answer is, if I'm ready, I'm like, no, but I know God is going to have me ready. Whether I'm ready or not, it's, whether I'm ready or not, here I come type thing. But I know I have God that is going to guide us and push us. And I don't really know what this whole wedding week's going to be like, right? Like, I'm excited to see my family for the first time in almost 2 months. I'm excited to show them around where I'm going to be living, where I'm going to be working, the city that I live in. And obviously my dad's been here, but the other family hasn't. But most importantly, I'm excited to be able to look at Rebecca in the eyes on Sunday, the August 29th, and say, yes, I do. I do take you for the rest of my life. And no matter how intimidating it can be for either of us, or stressful or sad, it's going to be the greatest joy to be able to have her by my side. And so I look at this crazy week coming up, and it's very easy to get your mind clouded with, for me, like a job that's happening at the same time I'm getting ready for this wedding, or conversations, or the unknown frustrations. But I always have felt that it's easier to just say, God, take this week and make it an amazing week. My hope is that his gospel will be shown on that day, that whoever watches the video of our wedding or whoever watches the live stream or whatever, whoever watches any piece of our wedding can sense that this is about, one couple under God and that wants to honor and serve him. And so we can always stress about things in life. We can always try to figure out on our own. There are a lot of things about school that I'm stressed out about. I've never met any of the students. I'm nervous about teaching a new level, things I've never taught before. But I know that I have been put here for a reason and that God is going to use me in the way he sees fit. So no matter how crazy your two crazies get in life, there's never going to be a day where those are going to go away. In this period, there's been days where I've had less to worry about the wedding, but more about work, or less work, more wedding. But I want to remind you of something that one of my coworkers, one of the teachers, shared a devotional last week. And he said simply this. He said, we need to find time to rest our hearts and our souls and ourselves. And that doesn't mean sitting down and watching Netflix. And that doesn't mean just laying down. It means unplugging, releasing yourself from the stress and everything else goes on and focusing on the Lord, taking your Bible out and saying, Lord, I want to read your word and I want to take time to meditate and to pray and to be in your presence. And when he was sharing all this, I realized that so many times in my life, I think that for me, recharging or resting or, it's been a long week of work, so I'll just come home. I'll just, Rebecca and I will go do something. We'll go out to go do something. But I never always feel that I'm peace. I'm calmed. I'm like, it's okay. It's over. I'm good. I'm ready to hit the get next week. And in many times it's not that. Many times it's, really? Are you serious? I got to do this again? Because, they talk about burnout, but I think there's a chance you can have burnout in life because you get so caught up in your job or your ministry or your kids, your family, and you don't take the time to say, I need to make sure that I unplug myself from the world and plug myself into the greatest generator of all time. And that is, I hate to say it's a generator, but you get the analogy, you get the metaphor, God's word, generating his love, his word into us and pushing us to understand him more and have a peaceful time reflecting on his word. So yeah, these 2 weeks, last 2 weeks have been a challenge, have been hard. This next week is going to be a real big challenge in some cases because of just the craziness that is going to go on. But yet it's going to feel so good because I know that God has paved this path for Rebecca and I to walk in and to continue to move in life with him and with everything he's blessed us with. And so I hope that my purpose really for sharing this as I was thinking about what to share is really just to hopefully encourage you that life is not one dimensional. There we go. Instead, it's one dimensional with God. It's not what I mean by one dimensional. It's not just one dimensional like my problems and that's it. No, because your life is what God has declared it to be, and what we see is what he already knew that was going to happen in our life, which always is mind-boggling to me. But I realize that Anything that happens, he knows we can handle. He knows what was going to happen. He knows what's going to happen to us in the future. So my prayer is for all of you is that as you go in life and you have the two crazies you're dealing with, that they don't catch up with you and strangle you to the point where you're so done, but instead you release them and say, God, take these, take me, use me how you want me to be used, and help me work through these different situations, different issues, different awesome things that are happening, but help me get through this with you getting the glory. And so with all that being said, and I know this was a shorter episode, but this is really what I wanted to share with you. One of the big things too is with next week being wedding week, I will not be having an episode of the Real Talk with Ben podcast. I still probably will have the Baseline podcast episode out. This podcast episode will be the last one for, I believe, 2 weeks. It might be even more than 2 weeks. A lot of craziness in the wedding week and then the first week of marriage. So there's gonna be a lot of traveling because I'm gonna be doing different things with the school as well that following week. And then Rebecca and I will be going on a short kind of trip that's not really a honeymoon, but something that we could just do together. So there's a lot of different things that will be happening. So this will be the last episode for a little bit. I hope you got encouragement. I hope you just see kind of my heart and where I'm at. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited to get married. I'm excited to have the students finally show up at the school. It's been like 2 weeks with no one in my classroom. So it's going to be kind of nice in the next week here to have students coming. So I hope you've been encouraged. Again, I say that a lot, but I really do, because that's why I do this. This is why I've made these podcasts, why I make the videos I do. This is why I do my Twitch streaming. Because at the end of the day, I want you all to walk away encouraged, to have some laughs, to maybe question some things, and then to ask questions, and to ultimately get pushed towards Christ. And so if you've loved this episode of the podcast and you listen on any of the streaming platforms, make sure you like it and you favorite it, so that way every day in the car or at home you can listen to it and enjoy what we talk about every single week. And then if you're listening and watching to this on YouTube, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That allows me to see everything that you are enjoying, things you might want me to change, or things you might want to add. You can even comment if you want. This really does help me be able to push this out to other people and for other people to see, and hopefully be encouraged as well. So once again, I just want to say thank you. And once again, I want to remind you of this, that we serve an amazing God, that he is faithful and you can trust him. And as always, we'll talk next time.